Good. Simon, did you check? Sound is good? Let me check it. Simon, you'll let me know, right?
Go!
Hi and welcome to this very special 90-second show live from Porto at the biggest WordPress event of the year, WordCamp Europe 2022. Can we just have a look around with the camera over here? We can see all of the people over there. We'll just pan around and look at everybody. So thank you for joining. We really are very excited to be live streaming and sharing our experience with you from our pink Elementor booth. And to celebrate this special occasion, I've invited Rino to the show. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for thank you so much for accepting.
Yes,
and also, I'm really quite excited. It's really been great getting to know you for this past couple of days here in Porto. So thank you very much for participating.
It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, and we're going to have more fun as well. For those of you who don't know, Rino is a web designer at heart and the founder of LivingWithPixels, which is it's a successful YouTube channel focused on design and running a web design business. And he will take on the daunting task of answering your questions live here with us. So please go ahead and ask them anything about web design or growing a YouTube channel and managing client relationships. He is here to share his personal journey and provide us with some really helpful insights for beginners and more advanced web creators alike. Also, he'll show some simple yet powerful design improvements that anybody can make. And besides the questions in the chat, we've also collected some common ones on our social media, which we think that you'd like to hear about too. Such as this specific question from Jenny, for example, who asks, Jenny would like to know if you already had a web design business before you started with YouTube.
Okay, yeah.
So let's start with that one.
All right. The 90 seconds?
90 seconds?
All right.
Go.
All right, so yes, I actually had. I started in design school and I thought that I would just be a web designer in an agency, but then I started sharing the things that I learned in school on YouTube just for fun. First on a Dutch channel because I'm Dutch,
right?
And then I started getting into web design more because I was way too broad. I did graphics, I did web, I did app, so I needed more focus. And then I started LivingWithPixels like 2.5 years ago, and it has been a lot of fun. So yeah, I had an agency before I actually started this, so it's not just YouTube.
All right, great.
Yes.
Well, I think you made the 90 seconds. Thank you for giving our insight.
Yes.
I think we've got some spare time left, right? All right, so let's continue. As you can see, today is a special day, and to celebrate, participants who ask questions in the chat, they'll be entered into a raffle to win an awesome prize, which I'll announce I'll announce the prize and the winner at the end of the event. Just a quick reminder of the rules, because I know it's a lot of fun and it's an interview, but there are rules.
All right.
Since we are live streaming this event to Facebook and YouTube, we will choose questions from those live chats. And Rino has 90 seconds to answer each one. And when the time is up, you get to decide what to do, either continue with that question or move on to the next one. All right, so to get the ball rolling, what we'll do is we'll start with a question from the community. Let's do it.
All right.
All right, so question number one from Rona. She asks, what is your process when working with clients? Do you have a certain workflow from booking until delivery?
Yes, absolutely. Oh.
90 seconds. Please go ahead.
All right. Yes, absolutely. For me, the process is like my religion. You know, it's really important because when you don't have that process, it turns into chaos. So what I do first is I first go on a discovery call or a discovery meeting with my client, and I ask them a lot of questions because I want to know like what they want, but also what they need.
Right.
Because it happens a lot of times that they say that they want this, but actually they need this. So you need to ask questions and be sharp. So then when you know what they want and need, you're going to start making some sketches. And this is also really important because then you can already show it to them within like a day, and they can say like, oh, this is cool and this is not cool.
You make sketches, you do that on paper with pen?
I do that on paper or on my iPad. And then when they are happy with the sketches and the general direction, I go into a design tool. Sometimes I make wireframes with no collars.
Right.
So just a very basic design, a little bit more details, but not a lot. Low fidelity.
Function.
Yes, absolutely. And then I go into the visual design, and then I go start for search for inspiration on the visual part. I ask them like, hey, do you have some colors? Do you already have a brand guideline? And most often it's just, yeah, we have one color and we have a logo, and just go on, you know.
Right.
So I start from there. I create a palette, and then the whole visual design process starts, and I let them agree on the design before I go into Elementor, because then when I start in Elementor, it's nice for my client and for me because they know what they're going to get. And for me,
just check on the time. Are we on the time? Finish the time. Let's just ask in the chat if we want to continue. We're getting some insights.
All right.
Let's continue with the next question. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Sure.
And we'll continue to get insights here. Let's go to a live question from the chat. Nick Bennick on YouTube is asking, hi Rino, big fan. Thank you for all your help. How do you handle clients which take too long with providing photos or feedback regarding your projects?
Yeah,
90 seconds. Let's go.
All right. Yeah, that's almost always it's a challenge, right? Because you start with a project, but they don't have the photos ready, and sometimes it happens that they have some photos somewhere in the Google Drive, you know. But before you get all the photos, you actually want to start. So what I do most often is I start with free images.
Right.
I just get them off a few free image websites, so I actually have something to work with. And then when I finally get the images from the client, which requires sometimes a lot of asking, you know, and then I'm going to implement in my design, and then the design comes to life. Sometimes it also happens that the photos do not fit with the design, so I go into Photoshop and change them a bit or ask for other photos.
Right.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we've got some time to spare, so we'll continue with the next one. This is a community question.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So Kim, she asks, as a web designer herself, she wants to know from you how you got your first customers who didn't know you through family or friends. So no family, no friends.
Okay.
How did you do that? 90 seconds. Let's do it.
All right. So yeah, my first client was actually my aunt, and then her daughter, so my nephew, because they both had a business. But what I try to do is just make sure that my family had the best website possible within my skills.
Right.
And the beauty about working for family is not the money, because you don't want to ask too much, but the beauty is that they already love you. So if you create something that's really good for them, they would love to recommend you as well.
Right.
And that is different with normal clients that, you know, pay more. So I really think that even if you don't get paid a lot in the beginning, you should really try to deliver something really good, because they will start talking about you, and that's also how it started for me. And then you know someone here, and you deliver something good, and they talk again, and that's slowly how it starts. So
word of mouth, and people talk.
Yes.
And there's communities, and
absolutely. And I know a lot of people go into the website, those freelance websites, and try to compete with 1,000 other Elementor users, but that's really hard, you know. So
right.
I focus on the local.
Absolutely.
That's yeah, it's easier.
All right. Well, thank you for the insight. Let's move on to the next question, and it's going to be a question that I'm thinking about. Since that you work with a lot of clients, different types of website projects. Do you have any design tips, like maybe quick tips or things visually to help out beginners that are thinking of getting into design, or maybe make their design work better in a way?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
90 seconds.
I'm not used to it.
It's okay. Let's go.
All right. So yes, I do. The thing that I see most often happening is that they don't pay a lot of attention to spacing. So I actually want to show you an example that I have over here.
All right. Let's share your screen.
All right. So
There we go.
All right, so yeah, this is a client that already had a website, and she worked with Elementor herself. So she created a website, just a simple website with 6-7 pages, and she asked me like, hey, can you make an improvement on the design? So I did. I made sure the design had a nice color palette. I changed the fonts, I changed the spacing.
Right.
I made it all.
Very subtle changes, but
very
make a big
subtle.
difference.
Yeah, but exactly. But then I was busy with other projects and I didn't have a lot of time. So, but she needed another page. So she created another page.
So she created the page herself.
Within Elementor, yeah, because it's so easy to use. And it's not actually that bad, but I think I can show you some simple examples. All right, so over here, I've made a few comments already. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my Elementor editor. Let's refresh it. All right, so one of the things that I see in a lot of websites.
I'm very sorry, 90 seconds are almost up. Let's just check in the chat to see if we want to continue.
Okay.
Do you know what? We're just going to continue.
Okay, we're going to continue.
Go ahead.
All right, so in this design, you see the first text, and it's really wide. So for your eyes, it's actually not a very pleasant experience to go from full left to full right.
Right.
So what you can easily do is just go into your section and decrease the width over here, like this. And that already makes it a little bit nicer. And this is also the reason, by the way, why blog posts are not full width, but are smaller. Now, for example, when you have a section like this, don't put it in one row, but just use the column feature. Just put it on 2, or maybe even 3. Here you go. So this is all spacing the elements inside of it. But what's also really important is to add a little bit of spacing within each section, on the top and on the bottom. So what I always do is I add a little bit of space padding, on the top and on the bottom. For example, 80. She didn't put this title over here, so yeah, actually something like this creates a little bit more
it's easy on
space.
The eye and
yes.
What is separated, where something starts and where something continues.
Exactly, and for example, over here the same. You just decrease it a little bit and it makes it a lot easier to read. Simple changes. Over here as well, we could do the same thing. If you scroll down, you can see another thing. That's the second thing I wanted to say, and that is visual hierarchy. The title has the same text color and the text as the actual text.
It's confusing.
So it's confusing. So what you want to do is just duplicate it over here, delete the text, and make sure that your main text is different, right? So for example, I'm changing the colors over here. Let's see if we can.
Contrast.
Yeah, let's see if we can use, I don't know which one it was. I think this one. It's already a lot better because it's now clear, like what is the title and what is the content. And the last thing that I want to show, forms over here. I see that on a lot of websites. Also, just make sure to make them smaller. It feels like less of a chore, you know?
Yeah.
So simple.
Easy on the eye and looks a lot better like that.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much for sharing those quick tips
All right.
to our viewers. Let's move on to a next question from the live chat. Yom, our creative pad on YouTube, is asking, what is the most challenging project you have worked on and how did you handle it? So the most challenging project and how did you handle that?
That's a live question.
It's a live question from the chat.
Okay.
90 seconds, let's go.
All right, so yeah, the most challenging project I think I've worked on was a listing website where I had to create a custom post type and then a whole list of a bunch of different items. It has to have filters as well, so I really had to dive into dynamic content, but also the design process was really hard because it took me a while to understand what the client actually wanted from me and needed. And this is why I say you have to ask questions in the beginning, because I didn't ask enough questions and we already had like 2 calls of 1 hour and I still didn't fully understand. And maybe, you know, there's communication issues, but it's so hard. And so that's why I always say, like, make sure to sketch out everything, because this was when my process was a little bit shorter. And this is the beauty about the process. It feels like you're doing a lot more work, but in the end, it's a lot less work if your process is actually better and you ask those questions in the beginning and you make sure to create those low fidelity wireframes so your client knows what they're going to get, and you know
so that's the
what you're
function
going to
is
get.
very important, so that they can visualize that and make sure that that's correct from the outset.
Yes.
But of course, after finishing the project, you learn from it yourself as well for the next time for that same type of website, or you can suggest it, you know, so it's something that you use to learn as well.
Absolutely.
That experience, of course.
Yeah, I'm learning as well, and every time my process also gets improved, and that's what I try to share on my YouTube channel.
Right.
Because it's so interesting. Also, my mistake, right? I'm not perfect, so I'm not trying to portray like I'm the perfect web designer.
Right.
So I think we should all share that a little bit. Not only the success stories.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, it's a project. Projects, you know, take time, and they're not simple. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much. Let's move on to a question. You know what? Let's just check around and look at our crowd just for a second, just to see everybody over here. There we go. Thank you for participating as well over here in the live stream. Awesome. All right, let's move on to a community question. Let's just check this one out. Eileen asks, if you are creating a website for a client, and images have to be made by a photographer, who decides what kind of photos are taken, and do you give instructions about color, layout, or atmosphere? All right, so it's a little bit similar to the photos question we had before.
Yes.
Please go ahead, 90 seconds.
All right. Yeah, so picking photos is also always a challenge, and it really depends on the kind of website you're going to create. So normally there is not a photographer involved, so you have to give the client a little bit of direction. Some web designers do the photos themselves, you know, they go to the location and shoot some photos, but
to make sure it's all similar, or it's the same vibe or style.
Yes, so what I most often do, like I said, I work with free images, and they look very beautiful in the design. Then I ask for their pictures, I import them, and actually show them like, hey, you see how much of a difference it makes if you pick this picture versus that picture.
Right.
I have a project actually that I think is a great example.
All right, let's check it out.
All right, so I'm here again in my Adobe XD, my design file, and what is really interesting about this project is that it started out as this website. This was her original website. So it was 6 pages. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Very simple, but very short content on every page. But it's a photography website, so I thought like, hey, maybe we could make it into an experience, because photography is also an experience.
Right.
So I tried to use the pictures in order to make a new design. So here you can see a few of my variations, and I ended up with a design like this.
Oh, it looks cool.
Yeah, so I tried to pick the photos that looked good in my design. And you know, sometimes clients will say like, hey, I want that photo over here, but you have to sell your design as well. Don't just create a design and send them the file. Right. Explain why these pictures work great in this position, and then the clients will also feel and see your expertise. And I think that is really important. So
this is a one-pager, right?
This is a one-pager actually, yes. So as you can see, it flows naturally.
Yeah. How did you get to that to this end result, basically?
Yeah, so the client, like I said, first had a 6-page design.
Right.
But in these days, I think that clicking a lot is not what people expect anymore. Like 20 years ago, that is how the web works, right? You had a menu on the left, you had a menu on the top, maybe 2 menus on the top. But now people are used to scrolling all the time. So
it's like an experience.
It is, yeah, it is like an experience. And of course, it depends on the website you're going to create. Like some business focused websites, which are just more informational website, you need to click, you know, but always try to make the experience from the homepage, so that the homepage is the place that redirects them to the right places, instead of the homepage is just a short text and then they have to find out where everything is. Like guides the users into the whole website. I think that's great.
So also you suggested that, let me just check on time. How are we doing on time? All right,
finished.
So I'm pulling out my time extension card. I just want to add something and ask you as well, because you spoke about, you know, having an idea and suggesting that to your client. You know, so you come in with a proposal.
Yes.
How does that work? Do you have any tips on how to approach that relationship in a sense.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, I think it's really important to sometimes also push a little bit, and not in a negative way, but in a positive way. Like I said, you have to sell your design, basically. Right. After you've sold the project, after they've agreed on the project, the selling is not done. So I think it's really important to just make sure to sell your design as well.
Right.
So what you want to do is, when you make a design, I always add a video or a text document explaining my design. So don't expect that the client is going to give you all the information. It's more like a collaboration. Right. So you have to work together. So hey, I made this, but this is your product, how does that fit in? And the communication is so important to get to a good result. It's not just your design skills, exactly. Right?
Right. All right, cool. Thank you for sharing that. Let's move on to our next question. We're moving on to our next question, which is, let's have a look. Mark here on YouTube is asking, in version 3.7 of Elementor Pro, there's a new feature called Notes. What do you think of this feature, and how would you apply it to your customers so it doesn't become a headache? All right, well, we know the new Notes feature. I think you've been playing around with it as well.
I did, yeah.
So that it doesn't turn into a headache. All right,
all right.
90 seconds, let's go.
All right, so yeah, for the people that don't know, I've actually added a few notes to my own personal website.
All right, let's share your screen.
All right. All right, so over here I'm in the Elementor editor, and you can click on the hamburger icon and go to the notes feature. And I've just added a few notes. You can click around and add a note. So for example, I thought that this part, I wanted to replace the images, so I just added a note for myself. So I also use this notes feature as a notes to self.
Right.
But when you're working with clients, it can be a challenge, and it all has to do with your process. It doesn't have to do much with the note feature itself, but the note feature can become a headache if you don't tell your clients when they can give feedback on what.
Right.
Right? It's the same when you're building a house and the house is done. Then you can't say, hey, we want another room. No, that decision should be made like a year in advance.
The foundation is laid.
Yes.
So what you're saying is, like, when you got rounds of fixes and edits, and that should be clear from the outset, when they can actually comment and make specific types of comments.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So you need to be very clear to your client, like, hey, I'm now working on this part, like we're now deciding where the main content is going to be and what the functionality is going to be. And only when you agree to that, I'm going to continue, because otherwise you need to tell them every time, like, otherwise we're going to run into issues in the future. And yes, I can change everything, but you're going to pay.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. It's easy to change, but I mean, of course, there's a lot of other things going on as well.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you for sharing that. Let's have a look. Let's move on to our live chat over here. All right. Rohan on YouTube is asking, what's one question you always ask your clients to understand their web design expectations better? Okay, one question to understand their expectations better.
Okay.
90 seconds. The stage is yours.
Okay, let me think. Yeah, okay. I think that the goal of the website is the most important one. Because what happens a lot of times is that your client says, like, hey, I need a directory of my logos, so something like that, or I need a directory of my project. But in their old website, what was actually the problem is that their form didn't ask the right questions. So here, you need to ask them to the goal, and when you first ask it, they will literally say the goal that they have in mind, but it's not the real goal. So for example, they will say, well, my goal is to have a list of projects, but then you need to ask further, like, hey, no, what is the goal? Like, is it to acquire new clients? Is it to brand yourself in a professional way, or is it to just provide information? Like, what is the goal of the website? Make sure to ask those questions, and when you have that, from that you can start a design, and it all becomes a lot easier.
So you'll have a deeper understanding yourself of the real needs on a professional also level and you know, like a final end result kind of level. So that's great. So I just want to add to that maybe, like, you know, it sounds like, you know, also a type of interviewing your client kind of thing. What is that like? I mean, you know, learning how to interview your clients and asking the right questions, and you know, probably have some insights for that as well.
Yeah. Okay. So in the beginning, like years ago, I was scared of those conversations, to be honest.
Right. Okay, we ran out of time.
Oh, we ran.
I am putting out my time extension card again.
Okay.
Because I would like to hear your answer.
All right. So yeah, like I said, I was scared of those conversations because I didn't want them to kind of think that I'm an amateur or something. I want to prove myself.
Right.
And I don't want to be too hard on them. But not asking questions is actually where it becomes more difficult. So what I found is that your clients actually respect you more when you go deep. And yes, the conversations, it will cost a lot of energy, but make sure to not leave the conversation before you have the answers that you actually need for the design. So what I learned is that you don't need to be scared. It's worse if you don't ask enough questions. It's better to ask way more questions
Right.
than to not try to be you know, hard on them and just ask a few questions.
Right.
Or you're scared that they don't accept you, or that they're not going to accept your price. Like, no. Make sure to ask the questions because then they will see you as someone who cares, first of all, and you also have the information.
Yeah, and with that information, of course, which is very important, you can also build the expectations in a certain way.
Yeah.
Because they'll get to know you and also what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
In a sense.
So I think that's the best advice I can give on that.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. Let's move on to, let's see, is this the last question for today? Let's have a look. Let's just see. The last question for today. Yeah, let's do this. Are you ready?
Yes.
Last question for today. Actually, this last question it's my own question.
Oh, okay.
I forgot about that. That's funny. But actually, I'd really like to know what would you do if you want to get started today. So not you know, after you've been already, you know, for years, a lot of experience. But if you'd get started today, anybody in the industry want to be a web creator, they've got, you know, design skills, maybe some other skills. But what would you do? What path would you put them on?
Okay. Yeah. So what I would do is I would do a lot of fake projects, and I know that a lot of people are against fake projects. But I would do two things. Like, one is fake projects just for my own. Just try to build a restaurant website for a fake restaurant is not so relevant.
Just to get the practice.
Yes, but also to get practice with clients. And this is something that a lot of people disagree with. But also do free work, but only when you want to work for somebody. So never accept a free work when they ask you. But let's say that you have a restaurant around your corner.
All right.
You go into the restaurant and you say, hey, can I just update your website for free? But when the next restaurant asks you, then you should start asking money.
Right.
Only do it for free
so
to get experience. Yeah, so to get your name out and just ask them, hey, I'm going to do it for free, but then it would be really nice if you would talk about me to your network and try to recommend me whenever possible, because I'm trying to build my portfolio.
Right.
Because it's worse to start with a little experience than to just, you know, be a little bit you need to have experience. That's
and
really
also
important.
be true to yourself. Is there anything that you like maybe read or learn about, or want to focus on more, like how do you keep on advancing, how do you keep on
Yeah, so I'm actually pretty addicted to YouTube myself. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I think I've learned a lot in school as well.
Right.
You know, it's not that school is not not cool anymore. No, I learned a lot in design school, but after school the learning can stop if you don't do it. So yeah, I sometimes also pick up a book about, for example, sales. Because as a freelancer, you have to sell yourself all the time, not only the project, but as I said, you have to sell your design as well.
Right.
So I think sales is really important. Marketing is also important. So you could pick up a few books or courses. I buy courses myself. So I just try to do everything to become better.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Just before we wrap things up, questions that we didn't get to answer on this live show, what we'll do is we'll try to pick up later in the comments. Please feel free to add your questions and we'll really try answer that. All right, that's it. Our special 90 seconds WordCamp Europe event has come to an end. So let's just give a big round of applause to Rino. You really did an amazing job. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
We hope that you enjoyed as much as we did and you learned something new. So Rino, thanks again for joining, also sharing your knowledge with us. It really was great. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes. I would like to say that if you want to get started, make sure to be real with your clients. I think a lot of people are trying to fake that they are a big company or something, but they will find out anyways,
Right.
if they're gonna start working with you. So be real with them, because you're not just selling your skills, you're selling yourself as well. People like to work with people that they like, So I think that's really important. Don't try to fake it. Be real with your clients, and also be real about the cost. If you really believe that you deserve this, stick to it. Be real to yourself, be real to your clients. I think that's really important advice.
All right, great, thank you. Okay, so now it's time for the raffle. Okay, so there really were many questions, so thank you for that. But the only question that remains is who's going to win the $100 gift card. Let's see who's going to win today. All right, the winner is Miguel Valencia. Miguel Valencia, well done, congratulations. Please contact us today via 90seconds@elementor.com. That's 90sec@elementor.com, so we can give it to you. And that's it. We hope that you managed to sense a little bit of the festive vibe here in Porto, and we will publish our experience too for you to see. So stay tuned, and who knows, perhaps we'll see you next time in person, wherever that may be. So thank you for joining, and ciao for now.